Have you ever looked at someone who's insanely good at math and thought, yeah, that's not me? They solve hard problems like it's a game. They don't panic under time pressure. They seem to see the answer before you even know where to start. And meanwhile, you're stuck on something basic, wondering if you're just not built for this. Most people explain it the same way. They're naturally smart. They have the math gene. They grew up with strict parents. They went to some special school. Those explanations sound comforting because they let you stop trying. But the truth is a lot simpler. The people who get good at math aren't doing secret genius rituals. They're just using a different approach. Not more talent, a different system. And the best part? That system isn't exclusive. You don't need a crazy IQ. You don't need to be born gifted. You don't need to be the kid who's been good at math since elementary school. You can build this, even if math has felt like your worst subject for years. Because here's what nobody tells you early enough. Math isn't learned with your eyes, it's learned with your hands. One of the biggest traps in math is the illusion of understanding. You read the lesson, you watch someone explain it, you nod your head in class like, yeah, I get it, and in that moment it feels true. But then you sit down with an actual problem, alone, and suddenly your brain goes quiet. Your hand is holding the pencil, but you don't know what to write first. That's the moment most people interpret as, I'm not good at math. But it's not your ability. It's the gap between recognizing a solution and producing one. Watching someone solve a problem is like watching someone play a video game. You can understand what buttons they're pressing. You can even memorize the combo. But if you've never held the controller yourself, you won't win. Math works the same way. You don't learn it by observing, you learn it by doing, by getting stuck, by making mistakes, by correcting them. That's why the students who improve fastest aren't the ones who understand quickly. They're the ones who practice in a way that forces their brain to adapt. They don't solve problems just to get the right answer. They solve problems to build reflexes. So when a familiar type of question shows up, they don't freeze. Their brain already has a pathway. And here's a habit that separates good students from great ones. Most people solve one problem, get the correct answer, and move on. They cross it out, breathe, and think, okay, done. But high-level students treat getting it right once as the warm-up. They solve the same problem again, but with a different method. Sometimes even a third method. It sounds excessive, but it changes everything. Because when you solve one problem in multiple ways, you stop memorizing steps. You start understanding structure. You start seeing patterns. You start training flexibility. Take a simple example, quadratic equations. Most people learn one method and cling to it forever. But strong math students explore alternatives, factoring, completing the square, the quadratic formula. Not because they're trying to show off, because each method trains a different muscle. And in real exams and real life, the ability to switch approaches is what saves you when your first plan doesn't work. That's why math isn't just a subject, it's mental training. It teaches you how to stay calm when you don't immediately know the answer, how to search for a path instead of panicking, how to break a problem down and build it back up. Now here's another reason people struggle. They try to jump to advanced topics too soon. They want to feel smart, so they chase the hardest chapters. Calculus, complex numbers, matrices, big impressive words. But the people who are actually good at math do something that looks boring. They master the basics. They go back to fundamentals most people rush through. Fractions, algebraic manipulation, common factoring patterns, simple arithmetic accuracy. Because math is a building. And if the foundation is shaky, everything above it becomes stressful. That's why someone can understand a new topic, but still fail problems that require basic skills underneath. If you feel like you're constantly confused in math, there's a good chance you're not dumb. You're just missing a few bricks in the foundation. And fixing that is not embarrassing. It's powerful. 1 month spent rebuilding fundamentals can save you years of frustration. Then there's a tool almost nobody uses, but every top student quietly has. An error log, a notebook of mistakes. Most people get something wrong and want to erase it like it never happened. They don't want it to have to always look at it. They don't want to feel that discomfort, so they delete the evidence and move on. But smart students do the opposite. They write the mistake down, not to punish themselves, to study it, because mistakes are data. When you consistently miss the same type of question, it's not random. It usually comes from one of a few reasons. You rushed, you misread, you misunderstood the concept, you made a careless calculation. You didn't recognize the pattern. When you name the reason, you can fix the root. And that's how progress becomes predictable. Now, people love to say, don't memorize formulas, understand them. That advice is true, but incomplete. Understanding is step one. But if you never practice until recall becomes automatic, you still won't perform under pressure. High-performing students don't memorize blindly. They understand first. Then they memorize with meaning. They break formulas down. They ask where they come from. They connect them to earlier ideas. And once the formula makes sense, they practice it until it becomes a reflex. So in an exam, they're not wasting energy searching for the tool. They see the question and immediately know what to reach for. That's not talent, that's preparation. One of the fastest ways to build that preparation is to teach. Not formally, not as a tutor, just by explaining what you learned in your own words. After you finish a topic, try this. Pretend you're teaching it to someone younger than you. Use simple language, no complicated terms. If you can explain it clearly, you understand it. If you can't, you found the gap. And that gap is gold, because now you know exactly what to fix. You can do this in your room, out loud, to a mirror, to your phone voice memo. It might feel weird at first. Oh, but weird is usually what growth feels like before it becomes normal. And now the final piece that makes everything stick. Consistency, not long sessions, not marathon study days. Consistency. Most people think getting good at math requires hours every day. It doesn't. It requires repetition that's steady enough to remove fear. 15 to 20 minutes daily can outperform someone who studies 4 hours once a week. Because math is like training your body. A little every day builds strength. A lot once in a while builds soreness. When you practice daily, math stops feeling like a monster. It becomes familiar. Your brain stops resisting. Your confidence starts building quietly. And one day you realize something. You're not bad at math anymore. Not because you woke up gifted, but because you built skill the same way anyone builds skill. One correct habit at a time. So if you've ever labeled yourself as not a math person, let that label go. You don't need to believe you're talented. You just need to believe you can train. Because the difference between struggling and thriving in math isn't genetics. It's method. It's practice. It's the willingness to face mistakes and learn from them. It's the patience to rebuild the foundation. Start small. Solve with your hands. Redo problems in different ways. Keep an error log. Teach what you learn. Practice a little every day. That's how math becomes easier. That's how it becomes interesting. And yes, over time, it can even become addictive. If you want more videos like this on learning smarter, thinking clearer, and building real self-discipline, subscribe to the channel. New videos are coming, and I'll see you in the next one.